All right, I'm going to get started right now. This is going to be the events part two training of Wolfpack Connect for club officers and club advisors. So, uh, to summarize, and I will share my screen here so that we can kind of go over and do a quick recap of the things that kind of happened in the first part of this event training series, right? And here is my screen now shared. I had created an event. Um, I had started creating an event, and we had left off. We'd gone through quite a bit of it, right? So we had started through all of these different steps, right? So I had talked about, going through and utilizing the fact that they're numbered off like this, right? We've got a what, basically a what, when, where, why, things, right? These things are all relevant, obviously, in terms of just basic information for anybody to know. But more specifically, though, they help us with being able to connect the specific students who might have interests in stuff but don't know what's going on campus and in student life events in general. It allows them to get connected up with specific types of information being shared. And so, yes, I wanted to, I believe I had this already created in the first training. These things to check. I found that these were most common things that could be very useful in making sure that we were checking. And so today we're going to jump in and be able to get some of these advanced options really looked at. But we went over the what, excuse me, which I everything is the same. I just moved the time back from the first training video to this one, so that it could show up today on the event calendar. But yeah, test event. We talked about making sure that you're doing your event type correctly, so that we can be able to label them, and again connect the students to the the stuff that's going on around campus. And then the event tags themselves. So this one, if this tells me right now that, yeah, this is going to be on campus. It doesn't indicate that it would maybe be on a hybrid, because it might also say online if that was the case, right? But that it's a leadership, it teaches on leadership development skills, that it is family friendly, not more or less talking about the fact that you can bring your family to it, which there are some times when this tag would work perfect for that, but more or less that any content that's really being shared is going to be very appropriate, we're be okay so anybody can join and check it out, like family friendly. So it's clean enough so you could take your children to it, basically. If it And then I also in the example had selected external events. So and that would say that, hey, this it's redundant to the fact that this one says Truex, indicating it's on the campus, and this says external event. But if this one wasn't here, right, then this would indicate just that it sounds like it wouldn't be an on-campus event at all. But yeah, there's tons of different tags, tons of different things to choose from. The more you choose, the better off it will help you with connecting the students to your event, and how it shows up on the event slider on the main Wolfpack Connect homepage, right? Then we went down, again, continuing off of number one, the organizing team, who is going to be the main lead, what's the contact information, making sure that you're using, if possible, a club email account, if you have one created. If not, that's fine. You can just use your regular school email. But then, yeah, what are the team members, and then how do you want questions are being like forwarded to you about things about that event? How do you want them to be really managed and organized, right? Do you want a group chat or just a direct email to the person who is the main lead or the event coordinator? Then we had our number two with talking about, when it starts, when it ends, the start time, the end time, the obviously making sure that you're selecting Central Time. In this case, obviously we are in Central Time, so make sure that you just double checking that. And then if these were like say member meetings that they're happening on a recurring basis, and in that instance, you would want to be able to select that because then it will allow you to choose a specific thing. If it's every Tuesday, you'd be able to say every Tuesday, right? And you just have to go through and select every one of those, right? And then we went down to three. We just looked over the basics with, hey, this is whether it's on campus, off campus, online only. So this would match up somewhat to our tags, right? So, and let me just actually just make sure I'm just zooming in just a little bit more here. So, if we have this as an external event and we didn't have Truex campus listed here, right? Then it would make sense that this would be selected as off campus specifically. If we had external event removed and it was just on Truex campus, then we would have just on campus as it's currently selected. And then I made sure to note that in terms when you have a hybrid meeting option, right? Because like say if we did select and I will just open that up, right? Put that down. So like, yeah, let's take this external event off. Now, this would really more or less indicate to me, if I was looking at this, that this could be a hybrid type style of meeting, right? And one may ask why we don't have a hybrid tag. Well, we could, but there could be different times when having these two separate tags are relevant and important enough. And so we're just going to continue with that process of having two separate tags. But when you see tags like this together like that, yeah, I would always make sure that indicator being that it's a hybrid event, most likely. And then in that sense, well, how do you list that on number three? And you would again make sure that you're putting on campus and you could put the location name of where on campus. So, just the room number itself or some other identifiable information. And then for the meetings or the second part of number three, you would also then put down the meeting link so that when it shows up, right, when we were to be able to view view a specific instance of this, right, you would have a option that would show something that would look similar to this, where it shows. So this event today, for example, um, has that Teams link down here. Um, but if we have the next time when we do start our emails, right? It's emails part one. Well, I have listed C2455 at Truex campus and the Teams link, right? So that's how you would handle going about doing it so that it was a hybrid meeting because it gives you both options and lets you see those, right? And then you know again making sure that you're putting that down in the correct information, right? So, and then we will go off into number four, and that just how you want to promote. So, again, if we're going to use creating this in the test group club, the testing club, to do this training right now. But obviously, this is an ELT, a Wolfpack Connect training. So I'm going to kind of flip flop here for a few times just so you get examples to see it in real time. So yeah, this is my event image for Wolfpack Connect training, and it lets me see, this. It looks nice. It looks nice in size and space correctly. It doesn't look pixelated. It doesn't look. It's plain. It's simple, but it doesn't look distorted or just non-professional. It looks good, and then that's how it will show up on the event slider on the home page. And so you want stuff like that. So I tinkered around and created uh, a kind of, well, I think it's neat, a neat little Wolfpack Connect event image here, and then making sure that you're always doing for ADA compliance, just having some sort of caption there so that if maybe somebody who is visually impaired, they're able to see hear it, you having screen readers read that to them so that they're able to have some accommodations for them. The same thing with the flyer. Flyers are just going to be big and about a full size piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, which would show up under the event details. And then yeah, so we go to 5. This is talking about things like food, and it's talking about dress code, right? So, and dress code doesn't, it's not, these are not mandatory questions that you have to answer. And most things are probably going to be in casual jeans or whatnot. And then food is another one where you just can identify and list that. Moving on to the 6, this was all talking about privacy and permission levels. That's really what this comes down to. There's going to be a lot. I mentioned that there was going to be a lot of things that says who is allowed to blank, or who is allowed to either register in this instance, or who is allowed to um, upload things to club documents or on your group page, or who is able to view things externally, or who is blank, right? Um, and so these are the privacy and view options, right? Privacy and view options, and you're going to see these same types of things in a lot of other areas. And so we just went over some of these things that there's tons of options, but mainly just setting it down to if any student who is not a part of your current club and you want to make this open to anyone in the student body, yeah, you just leave this to everyone and who can see this event, everyone that will show up in the event slider. But yeah, if you just want to say group members only. So, okay, I might have accidentally muted my microphone. Sorry, I thought I unmuted that. But yeah, if you wanted to be able to look at and say, hey, an example of this is these trainings are only set to people who are part of the ELT um, uh, group on Wolfpack Connect. So only members in this group would be allowed to register to it, right? So I have this group members only checked for that, but it's different for everything, right? So just making sure that you find the thing that works best for you and your group, right? So 7, we went down, and this was just talking about how you identify options with registering to the event and making sure that you're setting up a system, right? So in this instance, and then I should also say, also making sure that the math checks out, right? So in this instance, with this example, we talked about the fact that we wanted to have 100. There's 100 individuals that could register to this event. And we have set this up to being 50 of those being members or student members, and then 50 of those being guests, which would allow a student to be able to bring a guest with them, right? A plus one. And so that, you know, that after that 50 hits, right, we have a cap that no more will allow you to actually be able to, register to the event. And that attendance limit is right here. I'm talking about that, right? And so, yeah, and just to touch very lightly base on this, because we've already been through most of this, right? Um, you know, RSVP not attending, if you want to set it so you can get notified if they choose to say, hey, I can't make it. A reminder, hey, just sending a nice little, like, don't forget, you can preview it as well and select a cool little image if you wanted to. Um, and then personalized email confirmation after you've registered to the event. So if you register to this event, you're going to get a thing that says in your, it's going to go to your student email, and that says, hey, your event registration was successful. And then boom, there you go with that one, right? Display the list of attendees too. Um, this is um, this is allowing you to kind of privatize to some extent how the attendees of the event that who registered to it. But the bigger takeaway from this is allow users to post public comments before and after the event, which can be awesome if you're trying to kind of get some hype going about circulating about the event ahead of time, and maybe so they've registered, you've opened up the registration window ahead of time, and then they can put their posting, and then they're kind of creating like this just this feed of anticipation and excitement, and that can be a really positive um and engaging experience, right? And it can really help drive some numbers for that. Ticket cover, this meaning just the cover image, right? So we saw that just here. We saw that here right now, which showed that. Oops. And so, yeah, you're just picking an image. You can either upload one or just pick one from the default photo gallery. But just remember that if you want to pick one, that in order to make sure that's not going to be distorted or anything like that, that 180 pixels high or tall versus 980 pixels wide is going to give you the optimal resolution. So just something to check on that. And then feedback request, we touch base on the fact that, yeah, you can decide how you want to send out a feedback request and in what increment. So I usually select at the end of an event, just so it gets them right in their name and it lets them know right off the get-go what's going on. Like, hey, this is I just got done with this event. It's in my mind. I'm thinking about it, and now boom, I just got the feedback request after the fact. So, but you can select different things. Hi, hey, Annette. So you can select different things throughout the whole thing, and so then this will just allow you to be able to select when you want to have that feedback. So and so and hey, and I'm just gonna mute you just so that for the it just shows up good on the recording. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And so there we Right, cool. And then continuing on, so yeah, you can one big thing though is it depends on when you're sending a feedback request, it depends on what you want to select, right? So in some instances, like for example, with how we're doing these trainings for clubs, right? With ELT, we have it set up so the form that we send out the feedback request, aka is the primary thing that when you fill that out, that's going to give you points towards the incentive program, right? Um, but that's how we're doing it in clubs, and we're doing something obviously different in the extent that we want engagement with your clubs. That's going to give you money, and so we have a specific setup going on for that, right? But it's different in the sense, though, that maybe I just want a feedback forum, right? Well, we don't have a global one for the platform. We just have so you would have to kind of make sure that you had something selected and made a forum ahead of time, so that there would be something to select. So in this instance, I have options, right? And that's because I've kind of been tinkering around in the test group club, and I have something to base that with. And one thing that I think I said this in the first part of the events in part one, it will be something that I will be going over probably in the spring, which we'll be going and looking at the surveys and forums aspect, just because our next ones are going to be on emails, and then wrapping it up with talking about that last bit with just a quick overview of settings. So, and then there was that as well. And then moving on down. Now, this is the big one where we left off at the end of the part one of this events training. And so now we're going to really just emphasize the last bit of this entire training on here, right? So we start off at number 8. So if we go back and just take a quick glance at what we started at the very beginning when I mentioned these specific items here, right? So I just basically summarized and went through most of these, right, all the way down to 7, and now we're getting into some of them which are just specifically in 8. So in 8, going down to the advanced, and we're going to start with the attendance tracking options, right? So um, we have some things in the works for the future about this, but right now, when you've got everything set up, when the event's about to start, right, and when you want to do check-ins, you would have just activate RSVP at the door, and then you could activate a self-checkout. That's not something that has really been utilized because I think I'm speculating here, but I think that the concept is it would require identifying and tracking on top of you check the student in. So say you had 20 students coming to an event that pre-registered, right? And you now had you can see who's coming. Now you when the event's happening, you want to make sure you get those 20 students checked in, and so you have to make sure that you identify who's who and get them to check in and scan the QR code to check them in. And then you would have to check them out as well. And so you make sure that you would have somebody tracking them down as well to make sure that they've checked out. Now, I, I, I see that as probably problematic for some groups, just in the sense that, yeah, maybe if it was it's just a lot more work that you're having to do, right? So if you have something that is more of a membership meeting, maybe this would be a great thing for an activate self-checkout. But if you're having an event where you're trying to get maybe some new membership, or you're just having a fun activity, a social activity, maybe you're just trying to just you're not really trying to be that strict on how you're checking in and out, right? Just having that check in at the door is just sufficient enough, right? And then the activate multiple check-ins. This is, I believe that this is, yeah, it's going to, actually, yeah. So this would create, the reason why this one is something we don't use is, I mean, again, it can be used, but this is going to create individual. So let's say me, Sean, I check into an event, and I would be checked in, and it would show up as Sean. He's the one of the attendee list. It's Sean Green, right? Um, if we have activate multiple check-ins selected, it would could show up multiple times if there were multiple check-ins for me. Like if I checked in and left and then came back, checked in again, it would show up every time I checked in. And I think the reason why that yeah, well, it's not being used in any aspect is because that data, unless if you know specifically what you want to use that for, you're getting duplicate information that is not really helping give you the numbers or the potential a list of who showed up to your event. Now, there probably could be really great uses and maybe some sort of if you had a bigger event and you had different things going on. So you had the parent event, and I'm going to touch base on this in a second. If you had the parent event and maybe you had smaller sub events within that, that could be a great use potentially that I see as being a multiple check-ins because it's going to show you checking in to every single thing. And then that allows you to kind of see like, well, if Sean checked into this event, now I can see that, oh, well, he checked into this children event A, children event B. He didn't go to children event C, but he went then to children event D. And maybe that could help tell a story and help drive some information with that data about maybe what to change for the future event, right? If you were to hold it again next year. This is just one example. That comes to the top of my head. Maybe there are tons of other ones, but yeah, that's was one example I can think of that could be very useful, right? And so yeah, we just have this RSVP at the door. You would get you could select this just to get as it says, a basic notification, like, oh, like, so if I checked into this, this event that we're doing right now, I would say, hey, thank you for checking in to the event, and it'd just be an email that you'd get, right? Check-in method for that we have, right? And it says kiosk here, but really the kiosk is, wherever the entrance to your event really is, right? We have swipe scan ID cards. This is the default, right? And so you can just leave it like that in pretty much any case, right? You don't not need to change it. But because swipe scan ID cards is going to allow us just to enter in the information. Because I mean, and I say this in a sense, and I'll show you as an example here. If we went, I'm actually going to just hit and just go back like this, right? And so I didn't make any changes. I'm going to go back to the test group club, and we're going to take a look at this event is today, right? So it's going to be at 2 o'clock. And so why don't I try to see? So I could check in attendees, right? So by this setting, the setting that I had selected with swipe and scan ID cards, when we when we check people in, right, it's going to give us this option, and I'm trying to explain it in the best way that would make sense. It's essentially if you select the enter the name or type in the name or the student ID information, that will work just like that will work as it says it will, but it will only let you do it only for that method, right? Swipe scan ID cards will also let you do that method as well. The typing in a student name and looking them up to check them in. If say they don't know what the student ID number it is, we can look you up by your name, also doing a swipe and scan. It's because you're basically doing it through you're doing it through using the same technology that would the swiping a card or scanning a card would use, but you're doing the manual feature of having the person at the check-in desk being the one to, instead of taking a card or taking or scanning something, they're actually just doing it and typing it in. But the same technology, the underlying technology base is the same. And so having swipe and scan ID works. So if we did self check-in, right, this is going to, um, and if this loads, I might have just, there we go. So if I was to scan this right now, right, it would check me into this event. It would probably not allow me to check it in because again, the thing is set at 2 o'clock. So it'd probably say, hey, the event isn't started yet. But this is this right here is that QR code. You can print this off as a PDF. And this is what you'd usually want to have at all of your events, just a few of these laying about so that you can have them scan it and check into the event, right? If we were to then maybe look at check attendance with a computer. So this option doesn't really have much use at this moment, but if we did swipe ID cards, uh, um, or then we go okay to this, and now we could be able to do this, right? So let's just I do type in my name, and this will have an autofill, a list pop down. I'm a little bit surprised it popped my name up as fast as it could have, but so I could select my name from that, and that has the same technology as the typing a student name. And so it's a little, I don't know, hopefully maybe I've communicated, I did a good job of making it clear that it does the same thing, except the option of doing the swipe and scan allows you to do multiple options versus just being locked into one option. And that in some aspects, one may say there's a lot of redundancy here, and I would agree. But I think that the idea is that more is better in the sense of trying to get those students to check in. If we had a card reader, right, we would be able to do that same thing, though we went back again and then checked them in. We would use the self kiosk. We would open up the kiosk from here, and then this would allow this swipe. You would then swipe and you just swipe in and swipe the card. Now, this is something that we don't have. We're in the process. We're about halfway through the having this be completed, but and we're still working on implementing it in the platform fully. But the idea is that then you could have just you could fully utilize a self check-in kiosk, right? You have a computer at the beginning of or the start of your event, and then you could just have a swiper right next to it, plugged into it, with this page open, and they could just swipe their ID card, and it would just check them in, right? But that wasn't originally created and configured a year ago, and so that's been in the process starting back in June of last year. So, but it's just taking some time, and it probably will be probably until next year. I would like to say realistically that this would be happening, but it's a really great feature. But as you can see, again, I'm summarizing here though that there are three different really three different options that you get when you do swipe scan, and this allows them to be able to just whip out the phone. This allows you to just be able to look them up, and it's awesome in that sense, right? So going back though, now just to taking a look now that I've explained that part of that, right? So yeah, that's what that is. This rapid multiple check-ins. Again, this hasn't been this is default set to 5 minutes. Um, yeah, I mean, as you can see what it says in the description, use this option to prevent users from checking in to multiple times within just a few minutes or by mistake. So I've this is one thing that I've always been like, I don't really see the only way that that could be something that would you need to worry about is if maybe there was an issue with the swiper, right? And that could prevent some sort of a timeout with the event loading correctly. But 5 minutes is default. I wouldn't, and it's not something that really has to be really worried about too much, right? And so then add this next part here is kind of the nice little gem here. Add more questions slash slots. So when you have them register to the event, right? You can have them enter in specific information. Most of this information, it's a lot of different options, right? In terms of the events like for today, right? I and I think that most individuals who are creating events and club officers will be able to agree with me that we don't need a lot of this information, especially if it's an on-campus event. It's a little bit more than what is necessary. Even the account type to most extent is not going to be needed and not be need to be checked off. But since we do have about maybe close to 100 staff members, it might not be a bad thing to have it. And so what this is now going to show right now is just first name, first, last, email, and account type. That's just the information it's going to want to make sure that you're putting down. And then some of these other things here is an active question. If it's an active question, it will show up versus if it's unchecked, it will not show as showing up, right? Required, this is where you can make it mandatory, right? And then for each ticket, well, depending on how you set this up, and in this case, we set this up so that you have everyone can only select one slot, right? So you can only select one slot of, one ticket option instead of saying, you can select up to two in for a member. You can only select one, right? The minimum was zero, the max was one. The same thing with guests, zero and one. So there's nothing you can really do, and for each ticket, then it's going to be happening regardless, and for as the default, and so you wouldn't really have to mess with that at all. But if you wanted to have them do it for each ticket, you could. Maybe that would be great if you have for the guest information, right? But yeah, so there's that. You can or change the order in which these appear, right? If I really don't think that there's a need to, but maybe it would be necessary, right? But considering that first and last name are that's usually your good starter, a good starting point of getting some information for registration, it would be necessary. Now here's where the cool thing comes in, right? You can add a question and you can specify something, right? So you can say, uh, well, we can just do a very basic, any food allergies, right? And then now that's the title of the question. Now we can do a couple different things. We could have how we want this to show up, right? So we could have it just as entering in text, or we could have it showing up as checkboxes, or have it a drop-down menu. Like this is a drop-down menu right now. You could have it as a date selector, so you can picking a date out. So maybe if you had an event where you had specific date slots, and we can go back to the corn maze option here that I brought up in the part one of this event creation was Schuster's Farm had you had pick up tickets, and you had two options to pick up tickets. I believe it was, yeah, I believe it was on Wednesday or Thursday and Friday. It was one of the two. But you only those two options, 2 days out of the week to pick up those tickets, right? And so, you know, maybe that would be a great spot to be able to select that and put that down, right? Or in the instance of what the advisor did though, is they used text and then they just typed in the actual dates, and then that's when the student got to select that from there. But if you want to be even more fancy, you could actually pre-enter in the slots, and so that they would have less work to do basically. And then you could also have documents uploaded, multiple documents on top of that. I think there's only the ability. I'm pretty sure that only upload 10 at a time when we select one of these things. So just keep that in mind that if you have something more, maybe they have to, maybe depending on the event, I'm just trying to think of an example here. Maybe the event needs you to upload documentation, like prerequisite information that you need to be able to be eligible to go to the event or whatever it may be, and you need to upload some documentation to it, right? That's where you would be able to do it. But yeah, keep in mind that you would have a cap of 10. And so just to make sure that if you have, say, you need 11 documents, you might need to put in two of those multiple files, or maybe a multiple and then a single, or but yeah, there's only 10, a limit of 10 files. And there was not any clear exception to what file. It's just files, right? So any file type um, obviously would be acceptable. Um, uh, and then obviously our security with the network with the network security with the college would kick in for anything that would be suspicious or malicious. So nothing that really you would have to worry about when creating the event though. And so then, yeah, and then you can change answers cannot be changed, right? So um, we usually keep this to a no, but I can also see it being a yes. I mean, no allows them to make the change. But if so here's the thing. I'm thinking like if you have a registration window open. So the event we have is today on the 7th. And you said you have the registration open from the 1st of November to the 6th, right? And then you have it locked ending at the 6th because that gives you a day to review everything that, who's got food allergies and who doesn't, right? And then be able to have enough time to be communicate the information to either catering or to whoever you're getting the food from, and then that allows them enough time. So, you know, if you have that change to no, which again is what we usually have it at on, right? It allows the flexibility for the student to be able to make a change. I mean, obviously, in this instance, for this specific example, they either know if they have food allergies or they don't. But let's say if we could change it to anything where it could be a question where maybe they had changed their mind, or maybe it was based on availability of something, and then their availability changed, and so now they're making that change, right? And we allow them to do that. That said, though, it does make more of a struggle, or it requires more time and more like management of a club officer or the club officers in the group to be able to be on top of checking when, say, the registration closes, and then checking to see like, hey, did anything change during that time that the registration closed and then the event started? Because you wouldn't know specifically if you don't have the specific notification set up above when we with the activity stream option that we were talking about up in number 3 with around when and what, and then the answer. So I don't know. The answer is it's a toss up, right? Maybe, but depending on how you set it up, it could be very useful. Maybe if you had a clear, distinct, and gave enough time to lock it down to say yes that you cannot change it, or to contact you or the event coordinator or an officer of the club if you were to need to make a change and change your answer. So that could be and that could be an option, right? So if we do so we hit submit right there, and then we can then go ahead and now that we have this here, since we have none of these other ones activated, the next one in the list after these things are answered is any food allergies. So it's like really you don't have to move this up if you don't want to, because it's going to be the next thing in the list. And then we can then from here, you know, I had it set to text, right? So there needs to be some answers that they can choose from. So in this instance, we can then be able to let's see here. I think let's do a save here, and I'm gonna preview it, and I'm going to let's go ahead and so registration will be open from November 6th to so that's right. Registration is open. It's now 1 a.m. Oops, that's not good. So let's make it. I accidentally had the wrong time. See, I had the wrong time on here. So we'll back down to registration. This needs to be set not to 1 a.m. No, we could set to 1 p.m., right? So we'll hit save. And now that's going to change that so that now when I view this, I should be able to register, right? So now if I was to register, let's see what this does. So one, and then, so like I said, the minimum is 0, the max is 1. Now I hit register, and it notes that right there. That was the other part. You can only do 1 ticket per person, right? So then register, and now we go here. So yeah, basically, yes. The text box, I slightly misspoke here. The text option just lets you write down anything that you need to write down. And I don't think that there's any limit, probably 1,000 words for this text box at most. You can say, yes, shellfish or whatever, um, uh, and then confirm my reservation, right? So let's now go back and and change that, right? Let's do let's try something different with that, right? So let's go back down to advanced again, and now we're going to change this to say oops um add question. So we can any food allergies, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make an option for everyone, so right? So submit, and then we submit. And so, yeah, it's gonna probably ask you to want, yeah. So, which is what, yeah, I thought I would do that. So, submit, and then the date's probably only gonna let you, yeah, it's gonna, yeah, do the date thing. So, and then slots would be the last one here that would really is useful. So yeah, here's how the difference is, right? So this was text, you saw it texted. So, this is checkboxes. So add an answer, right? So value, yes, ordering one. I mean, where it's going to fall and showing up right after you ask the question. So yes would be the first one. Um, we're not doing an external custom ID because that's an external thing. It's externally outside of the platform. So you just leave that alone, but you go ahead and hit save right there. So now you can see we have one option. Now we probably should have a second option, which goes no, right? Um, and then this would be option 2, um, ordering number 2. And then when you always have to think about it, I think it just might be best that maybe you go an A, right? And then that's 3, right? So let's just do it like that. And so then now let's do this again. Add answer, yes, save, um, no. And then, well, this could be, if it was checkboxes, this one might be a, or is it drop down? Yeah, drop down, you do it, try it for that. And then date. So this one is going to pop up the date thing. Manage slots. So this is when we would have slots, right? For that. So we could say name slot option one, copy. So again, I'm kind of going off a little bit from the allergies thing, but I think it's relevant to show you, to show this, right? So we're just gonna do it for today. We're gonna do it, say little incremental things. So, we'll do, 1 o'clock, 1 p.m., 1, 5 p.m., and then the cap should be how many for this slot option, right? So we're gonna do we're gonna do 10. Let's just do 10 for all of them. Active yes, right? So we get that one, slot option one, we'll do slot option two. Again, same time, but off by, we'll do this at 120 and to 130. 10, save. So, as you see, we're slowly, and then we're just going to create another one right here that says slot option 3, and um, pop that down. Also do one, we're going to do 1:45 to 2 p.m., right? And again, 10, and hit save. Now that we've created our slots, we should be able to go back up now. And now let's go ahead and save it and see what we got, right? Like, and it's going to show us exactly what happens for each one. So, oops, we're going to preview, we're going to go down. And so, yeah, here's all of our options. So we're still in the registration process, right? Because we had, once you start registering, it's going to give you a amount of time before you get kicked out of the queue, for example. And so this is the text box. We have to put something in there. Any food allergies? This was the checkbox. Yes, no. This is the drop down box. Yes or no, right? Any food allergies? This is going to let us do the date selector, which is just completely your option, your choice. So I'm going to just do the 7th, right? And then any food allergies. And so this one would be as if you're using time slots, right? So, um, and so we could also say maybe this option right here is saying like this is with Kate, or this is with slot option 2 is with Luke, or and so you can select who or it could be anything. But as you can see, like there's 10 spots remaining. Like we set them all to, and you can select a thing, and then again, you're just confirming your registration. I'm not going to select anything, but yeah, and then that would be how it would end up looking for every one of those different options for those admin questions or slots. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with that, and make some pretty good predetermining asking some pre bits of information. It's like, hey, I need to know this information, or I need to know availability, whatever, and you can get a lot, be very creative with how you go about getting that when they register for the event. And that would make your life a lot easier when it comes to your club management, right? So that's a big one that we're emphasizing on, right? Moving on down those speakers. Now we haven't really utilized this feature, right? But if we had a speaker, like, right, we could actually put down, say somebody like, let's just use, let's say, I'm just gonna throw, let's say Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's coming. I spelled Brad wrong, to speak or whatever, or whatever. And I could pull up a picture and, no company or any of that stuff, or any of his information, like, and then a little bio, maybe a link, thing to his LinkedIn, right? And then publish, yes, and then we hit save, and then it would show. there, and then we could have you know um, now it's going to show exactly. And so this picture, this would show the picture of Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt, obviously, right? So now if we were to save this, right, and now take a look and preview it, right? So I have to get out of this. So yeah, I'm just going to maybe I can do this without having it. Okay, there we go. So back to registration details. So now let's see if it should hopefully show us a guess, right? Yep, here it goes. So now you can see right here it shows this. So that's what it's going to show, right? Is that's the speaker when you're looking at an event, like who's talking, right? Or who's going to be showing up, and then it would give it more information down below. That's a really cool feature. We just haven't you needed to use it for anything yet in terms of actually having speakers come, but it would be something I'd love to see happen, is that we could actually use that, right? Because I think if we're talking about ways to get people involved, having something they can see about, like, oh, this is going to be a cool event, this is who's talking at this event, right? Like that would be awesome. And I think would really bring in a lot of engagement, right? So now we can easily just talk, sponsor logos. You can add a logo here. Now and as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory, name, the logo or image itself, the size, and those, again, that's going to mean pixels, the sponsorship level, and so this is just a custom value that you're adding in. And then redirect after URL after registration. So if, as you saw when we registered to this event just a second ago, it said thank you, right? And then I had to click back on to go to registration details to be able to go back to view the main info of the event itself. I could change this to actually put in a website or a URL of some kind, and then from there, every time I register or anyone registers to the event, it will immediately pop open a page after you click on that register that would then send them someplace else. So this could be used as a nice continuing to from the start to finish, following them up on something, or like you know uh you know don't forget to don't forget to check out these things as well, or don't forget to sign up for these other events or whatever, and then it directs them to that event, right? And then you're just putting in the URL of that event listing in Wolfpack Connect, right? So um, again, not really something we utilize too much, but could be great. Parent events. Now, this is something that is great, right? This is a really cool feature. It just requires a little self setup. And I had a good example was the previous events, right? So I could, I'm just thinking about the best way to go about it, right? Because I had the past events when I was showing an example of this. I had a fall involvement fair, right? So I basically created the membership meeting and fall involvement fair, and I identified them. Um, I have option B, I changed the image, but I identified all of these differently with the fact that I had a different color of the image so you could see exactly what was what, right? At just a glance instead of reading the information. But basically, I'm going to zoom in here so it's a little bit more noticeable. This is the main event, right? This is the parent event, and it's going to look just like any other event that you create. Nothing, nothing big to it, right? Um, and so I've labeled it with that orange background. But now I started creating events inside of that, right? So these are the children events, right? So option A, option B, option C, and I think I had option D, right? So, and as you can see, these all had a different time as well, right? So And they all had a different room number as well too. So Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and they were all just different things. And I used the example of that was an involvement fair because if you're kind of just at something where you're checking out a bunch of different things um, in this example, that I was thinking like, what if you had a student who wanted to join a bunch of different clubs, and they just wanted to check things out? How could you go about doing that, where they could, be able to maybe check out one thing versus check out another thing? Another example that could have been used that just kind of relates exactly back to what we just did with the adding more questions and slots, and the speakers could be, hey, we could have a an involved a big conference or whatever, right, as the parent event, and then we could have this option A could be a specific speaker, right? We're setting dressing it up as a child event, but inside of that event would have that speaker information, and so that you would then, be able to see exactly who's in that. But yeah, then you could, and I guess what I'm getting at though is you can see that one, it says it's who the parent event is. So who is the one in charge of all of the events? The parent event is going to manage all of the children events. And so you can't become a child event without having the parent event there, and that they can all be categorized together into another container, which in this case is the parent event, without having the parent event being established, right? And all that would take is having multiple events created. So if you create one event and then create another event, and you go to this option of parent events, right? When you're creating the events in the advanced options, it will give you the option to say, hey, is is this being set up as a parent slash child event? Like you have multiple events I see here listed. Do you want to identify the one, or this one? Or, it's going to give you the option if you have more than one event created. And that's if you choose to do it. But yeah, I think that a great example would be what we just did with the speaker, right? You could have, say, Brad Pitt's going to be option A, and Beyonce is going to be option B, right? And that would allow you to say, okay, yeah, I want to go and register to option B because I really want to see Beyonce. And so it's going to um, give you, when you register for that one, it's going to give you that time slot, right, for that specific spot in the entire, so like in the entire parent event, right? Like in this entire thing, you have to, so one thing I did also want to note, and I'm sorry for jumping a little bit here, is you have to make sure that when you set up the parent event as well, that the parent event starts and ends within the range of when the child events take place. So if one of these options, right, were happening after 5 p.m., um, then they could not be a part of the parent event, and they couldn't be a child event within it, right? Because then how you don't you have something, the parent event is not able to manage all of the events if something is going past their start and end time, when it's being created. So just make sure that if you want something to be a child event inside of a parent event, that you make sure that it falls within the start and stop time of the parent event itself. So that's, as you can see, I didn't go past 5 p.m. on any of these because, yeah, if I had, it wouldn't allow me to have these be associated with the parent event. But yeah, as I now going back, as I was saying, if you have, I want to go to Beyonce, which was option B. I registered to option B at 9:25. It will then show me 9:25 to 5 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is the parent event. And it would then let me to be able to say, okay, I have just the information for this specific entry, and then the club or the group that is running or hosting this, they're able to see and get specific data to see exactly what specific child events were engaging with students and what weren't, so that they can modify and change the maybe change how they run the event in the future or the following year or whatnot. And that can be successful. It also would allow a student to be able to say, hey, I want to see Beyonce, but and then say maybe you have another one that another one that's got I don't know, give me a I'm just gonna use Angelina Jolie here, right? Brad and Angie, right? So um option C was Angelina Jolie, right? So I want to maybe go to Brad Pitt, and then I don't want to go to Beyonce, and I want to then go to Angelina Jolie, and I can do that as a student. I can select multiple specific child events, have those specific things in my calendar when I register for each one of those sub-child events, and it's all housed on the back end when the at the end of the event itself, the group can be able to see exactly what was popular and what engaged students and what to work on. So and they just get accurate attendance numbers and it can be it's very positive, but it allows you to keep everything in one nice little package sealed with a bow. And you know, it's a great option for having bigger event types and styles, right? Not something that we've utilized yet, but I came up with this example back in or I should say back in August, right? When I wanted to try to kind of explain this a little bit better about how you would go about this. So as you can see, registered to every one of these to just test it out, right? So, yeah, and it worked out it worked out great as a good demonstration, and you know, I would always be able to help with anybody if they had questions and wanted to go about setting something like that up, but because it would be a great example that we could use for future trainings. So then back to this though, right? Um, and you know, I do realize that we're almost a little getting closer to time, a little, and I didn't start right away. So we still got a good, you know, 15 minutes, a little 10-15 minutes left. So I'm gonna make sure that I kind of speed it up a little bit just so that I'm being aware of everyone's time. But so yeah, that was the parent event. And another cool thing you could do is you can automatically register to other events, right? So I have, again, using the example of ELT doing these trainings, right? So I have it set up right now so that this setting is enabled. And again, you have to have more than one event to be able to do that. I'll check the checkbox in here, but essentially, what it is I have this event is the start one of it, and then as you can see, it goes November 7th, 15th, the 19th. So it's going from the soonest to the latest, right? So from this one, when I created this one, if I already had these two already created, I could say make sure that when a student registers to this event, that it automatically registers them to the any other event that I had already created. So I could then select check off emails part one, emails part two, and settings. I could, and then it immediately would have those students registered to that, which is a great feature in the event, in the ability to be able to make sure that you're continuing to get and communicate these possible engagement opportunities with different types of events, or in this instance trainings, right? If you like this, you may also like, and then, potentially getting them interested and having them be able to just get automatically registered. So with that said, it's a great feature. It can, depending on what you want to do though, not help you at all, right? Because I'll use the example of, I have 11 registered right now, right? And we don't know, I know for a fact, but I'm just going to say in this moment, speaking in this training with you all, that the 11 registered, I wouldn't be able to tell unless if I did the other previous events, right? Who exactly could show up to that meeting, right? I have them registered to these further future events, but that doesn't mean that they will be available. They might have class or they may have something going on. All this is going to do is be useful as a tool to just make sure that they have it in their event list, and it will give them also that notification a couple days before to say, hey, and they'll be like, hey, I didn't know I even registered to something. But the fact that you might have automatically added them into those other future events could then be a nice little reminder, and it could be a nice little way of just continuing to communicate information, like I said, of different events, right? But if you're trying just to make sure that you have accurate data of who registered and then who actually checked in, that this setting would not be useful at all. So something just to keep in mind. Cost center, we don't use that because we use a different way of going about money. In this instance, Workday. Waiver, if we had a global waiver to use, right? And this event waiver was not here was not here this morning. We were trying something out here, so we're trying something new out here, so that's why you're seeing that here. But basically, if we had some universal way, and that's why I'm not going to acknowledge that, but some universal process or setup workflow that basically made sure to make sure everyone was following it, and that everything had certain things had to be agreed upon, then we would have something in there. And again, this is just something new that is not. But you can also type in something right here in this text box. It just wouldn't be probably as official, maybe as say a forum or that you could use, right? So again, that would be another example of something that you could do in surveys and forums, right? Um, and then moving on down to co-host this event, this is one of the ones I do address at the top of when you create events is that you can actually say, hey, I want to hold this event with multiple different groups within the college, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm able to, if I have maybe 100 members of one club, and then maybe there's 200 different students of another club for a different a club. Then I can expand my audience if we're co-hosting this event together instead of just having one group be the main host of the event. We can expand that reach of who we can potentially connect with. And that gives us 300 total individuals that now may be able to see this event thing and sign up for it than just say 100, depending on if that group one, the first group was the one that hosted it, or 200 with the second group was just the one that hosted it. You now get to combine and expand your reach and have more opportunities, right? Plus, it also is great just for networking between clubs to be able to do. And I say clubs, but you can also do the student organizations. We have a few different like locations and departments, to use for that. So that probably will never use departments, but say I want to have active minds, right? I'm creating this obviously in the test group club, so it's going to be created in the test group club. But as soon as I hit save and I was to check any of these boxes, it would now show up in both, right? And I will try to give another great example of this, right? So we have I made an event template with let's just do go back to the executive leadership team. Um, one of the event templates that I have is for the student success awards, right? And so this is going to be co-hosted between the executive leadership team and programs and activities council. And as you can see, it says co-hosted with ELT and PAC. So I created it in ELT's page, right? But I selected, like I said, in the underserved organizations that I did selected PAC. But now if I was to go over and look at um, uh, the PAC's page and look at events and then look at event templates, it's showing up now over there too, right? So what I'm getting at though is this is now not being looked at as one is hosting it only solely alone is getting only the credit either for the incentive program or just getting the recognition of being the one that hosted it. And it's going to it's now being recognized in the platform as equally, it's co-hosted with X amount of groups within this event. They're all equally getting the same sort of airtime of being the one to say, hey, this. Reach out to our audience here. Give us the incentive point requirements. Make sure that they're all getting satisfied equally. All of that's going to be the same, right? The only thing, like I already previously mentioned, is yeah, wherever the original thing was created from, yeah, it's going to have that, it's going to be created from there, but as soon as you hit save, it immediately goes out to and basically mirrors anything else for any other group. So, anyone who say wants to have a co-host an event and wants to make sure, like say it does it fulfill the requirements of the incentive program, you don't have to worry. It will actually allow you to both get the points for both groups and not just one group. That is a big thing that we want to make sure. And another thing here, just to keep in mind, is you know we don't want to have multiple things of the same event on our events on all of our event calendar, right? So because that's just confusing for students. I mean, they're going to see multiple things of the same event potentially, and then that just gets very like you may be potentially it may be very harmful. You may not get a student who could have been more engaged because there are multiple events and they signed in and checked in this one, but not in that one, right? Co-hosting allows for that not to happen and be an issue. And if I see that on the event calendar at any point, I immediately try to reach out and say, hey, this has to be set up as a co-host. Um, let's make sure that we do that within the next 24 hours so we can get this secondary redundant event off so that we have one main event showing up. So, and if that ever happened, I would definitely make sure that it would be seen. But and known to the club officers of the club, right? But yeah, so this co-hosted event is awesome and it can do a lot of great things and you can always write a little message. Service opportunities. You could list, say, if you had something where you wanted it to be service eligible, right? If there, I want this to be something that we know that a individual can list as service hours towards the completion of the leadership and to get the leadership certificate at the end of the year, right? This is where they would make sure that they're listing, yes, this event is service eligible, and so that it would show up when they go to put down their hours under their My Activity, right? So that's a big one. If this is not set, if this is set to no, which is the default, then they're really it's not allowed, right? So we do not have virtual fairs, so that's not a thing. And then calendar sync, we are not don't have this. This would be a feature we would have if we were doing something that allowed us to sync up our Outlook calendars or our Microsoft student and or staff talent at Madison College email address and to the platforms that you could then be able to have that synced up, right? We just don't have that, and we probably I do not see us probably having that for the foreseeable future. Last but not least, the event template here, which is a great example of something that we can be very useful for a group so that they can be able to make create very fast events, right? And this is, you're basically, in order to do this, you're basically just making an event as we've been doing this right now, right? And then at the very end, down here at the very bottom, under event template, you're now, instead of having it selected at no, you're now just selecting this to say for this group. Now, there's probably the chance that maybe this isn't listed underneath, just for general club officers. As I have admin privileges, I may just be showing it as platform wide as a third option, but maybe it is there, right? And maybe there could be some uses if it was there that could be useful for other clubs or groups within the platform. And we're always looking for better improvements in those senses. So, but I am going to believe, though, that's not, because again, I see things that most don't see. So usually it's going to only be this known for this group. Now, as soon as I hit for this group, right, and I'm going to make sure I don't have active minds selected here. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I didn't. Now, if I was to make this actually, if I refresh this. I'm probably in the test group club. I'm probably in the executive leadership team thing still, but this will basically create kind of similar to what you're seeing for event template here. Um, let's just do save. Very end of the training, and it wants to act up. That's where we pull through this other browser. Let's log in, and we will go back down. I'm going to use the exact, well, we could use either one, doesn't really matter, right? We could use test group club, right? I'm going to show it from both sides, right? So, event template, once you select that option, right, and say, yes, make it for the group, now when you were to go into your events, you would have a couple different things. One, you would have on the side panel view, right? On your left-hand side, you could click on event templates, and it would show you all of your different types of event templates, right? That you have. And basically, it would show you. So the reason why I say basically is, as you can see here, I identified that there are 4 different types of events that the test group club would have, and just depending on what it was, and then I have a default one, right? So what's cool is, to make this very fast, is you just hit create event now, and you can now select any template that you want. And so then once you select it, the image is now going to be there, and it's already going to be good to go. You will have to make a few things like update the description of the event and add a new name of the event, right? Because those are unique things. And the date, right? But all the other side things, all the other little bits of setting information, that stuff's all going to be automatically configured, and just because you've already done the pre-work. And so it's going to be great. And so another example I'm going to show you of this is executive leadership teams, um, where we have the same type of thing, right? Where we're utilizing that. So we have, and as you can see, I have all these different types of trainings comment here, right? But I was able to make these very fast using the event template, where I could just say, hey, here's all my different types of events that we do. And I could just, when I need to, I can just pick the one that, what am I doing? Oh, I'm doing a club officer workshop. Okay, well then let me just click on this one. Let me create the event and then select Club Officer Workshop. And then I immediately have all my stuff ready to go for my workshop, right? Or if, or again, as I've been doing it, I have Wolfpack Connect training. I've been just easily able to make a bunch of them of these events in the event calendar for the platform because I have an event template. So you're doing all the pre-work at that time maybe, and then you're just making sure that you have it saved as the option at the very end, here where it shows that, um, you know, make this an event template or not, and you're going ahead and selecting for this group in that instance. And so then you can hit save, and you don't have to worry about if whatever the date is that you have it set to, right? Because like I said, the date's going to get disappear, as well as the name and the description. You're going to have to add those things in anyway when you, because again, you're just basically having all those settings already pre-configured. You're just having to add in the new unique information about the event. But besides that, like it's already done for you all. And yeah, it's very useful, and I recommend it. I very highly recommend it. And so yeah, that in a nutshell, right, is the whole concept of making events, and things that you could do with events, right? So, part one shows all that information, all going from the what, the team, the when, where, going all the way down to the end of registration, which was again right, here, right, the end of this, and then where we kind of picked up today was we did a quick summary of all those things, but then we really focused today on all the advanced options in number 8, and gave examples of things that you can do with those, and events that we've done, that has utilized some of these features, and then some of the things that we have yet to do, right? But it there's a lot that can be done. It can be a lot and very confusing. It can be very frustrating as well. I know for me personally, I've had a few different instances where yeah, it's really made me want to rack my brain against the wall because yeah, either I might not have thought about something, or I might have accidentally saved it wrong, or something might have updated and then I lost all that information. Um, and yeah, it's part of the process though, but uh, I would say the offset though of having that there be so much in the events is that you get so much more out of it in terms of customizing an event that is specifically going to be what you're looking for for your group, and really maximizing on that engagement potential to the students that you're trying to reach, and to your club members, right? So yeah, it's kind of that lifelong thing, or life saying that they say, like, you got to put some things into it to get some things out of it. And the best way to mitigate that all of that extra time is to create the event template, and then you won't have to really worry about too much of it, right? That's going to be it for today. Please reach out to me if you have any other further questions, or if you need help with anything in one-on-one trainings, and I'll be able to do that with you. But yeah, this is going to be the wrap up, the summary of this, and you can find all of the trainings on all of the different things that are going that have either happened or will happen, or different types of trainings themselves, are all going to be on the executive leadership teams. You go to the group page, you're going to have an option to look at your videos, and all of those videos are going to be here, including the one for today. I'm going to be posting it as soon as I get off this thing. But as you can see, I have events part one from a few weeks from it's about 7 days ago, and then the club officer workshop. So if you have yet to finish your stuff for the incentive program for the orientation, The club officer orientation, just make sure that you're going to one of these, you're watching one of these club officer workshops, and that the your student club officers submitting it twice, so they get credit for it. And then yeah, and these are some of the this is from last year, but anything that this is going to slowly build up. Anything that's related to training or the knowledge base, you're going to start seeing these things here, and you're going to be able to check these out. So that's going to be it for me today. I thank everyone for coming and watching this, and you should be getting the survey or the feedback survey very shortly after this. To be notified to make sure that you fulfill your incentive program. But I'll talk to everyone later, and I wish the best. All right. You have a great day.